Here, in York, over a year after she witnessed the crime, she has found happiness, just a speck of it, at last. As Dom reaches forward to kiss her, his lips as soft as candy floss, she lets him. She lets him in. And that's the first step. The first step to here being home, and London being somewhere she never wants to return to. But sadly, she must. The phone rings exactly when Zara expects it to. She is sitting on her bed. Her mother is out. This is it. Zara, Harry from the Crown Prosecution Service here, a voice says. Can you talk? Harry. Zara hasn't seen him since the trial, but she has spoken to him. Many times. Yes, Zara says, staring at the nondescript walls, the cheap wardrobe, the dusty mirror. It's not a home yet. She thinks about what Dom said about settling in. We're working hard over here. We're ready now for your list of names, and the date has been set for the trial, end of February. Okay, Zara says, taking a deep breath. This is why she has to return. And this is why things are going to get worse. But she is ready for it, whatever it entails. Chapter 62, Aidan. Holloway FC, London. 2 days to go. Aidan goes up onto the roof terrace to think. He tries to map it out logically. In the end, he goes and gets a paper and pen. He finds a floral stationery set Lauren left right in the back of a cupboard. The first page bearing an old shopping list of hers. Curry paste, something lovely to put in the bath, something for A when he comes, beer, or nice tea, and his heart just about rolls over in his chest. He gently pulls the list out, being careful not to rip it, and puts it in his pocket. He turns to a new page of the notebook and writes one word. Mal. Luke was dropped, but Mal, who never served time, is still a player, yet not at the meeting nor in the group. Why? What if he could find Mal and speak to him, and, if he isn't interested in the group, get him to talk? It's time, he has realized. It is time to take the information that he has about the cover-up and do something with it. Aidan stands, finally, at Holloway FC, where it all began, watching the training. Back and forth, dribbling around cones. Mal is tall and wiry, a deft touch. Aidan watches, waiting for his moment. Mists swirl around the pitch, only noticeable from a distance. Aidan stares at his own trainers. They're probably steeped in it too, winter's freezing steam, only it's invisible. His moment arrives when they leave the training ground. Mal? Aidan catches up with him. Mal dismisses his fellow footballers with a nod. Can I help you? I'm the one from the Facebook Messenger, Aidan says. Mr. A. They stand alone in the cold. Aidan feels strangely vulnerable out here on the training field, the bleachers behind him and nobody around. It's dark. Isn't it always dark in December? And the fog gathers around the floodlights. I want to talk about that night, Aidan says. He knows it's dangerous to be here. Mal could easily place him as Zara's father from the public gallery. He's taken his glasses off, has got his beard, and all he can do is hope that Mal doesn't connect him to Aidan. He meets his eyes and doesn't see any recognition. Aidan is fairly nondescript, and the public gallery was pretty far from the dock. Mal immediately leads him inside, into an empty changing room that's open. Blue and yellow, garish gloss paint, pristine benches lining the walls. It's cold down here, like a church or a tomb, and Aidan shivers as he realizes they're totally alone. What's going on? Mal says. I know what you were doing, Aidan says. I know about the deaths and the cover-up. Mal's skin changes colour. Aidan has never really seen anybody pale before, but he recognises it immediately. His lips turn winter sky white. You've been told, he says to Aidan's surprise. There is something dangerous about Mal's expression. Something that says they're headed somewhere from which they can never return. Aidan hopes he's imagining it and begins to negotiate. It's hard to believe that darkness exists when it's so light like this. A bright Nando's restaurant. His beautiful daughter in front of him, sipping an Indian nectar tea and waiting for her lemon and herb chicken. The Art Foundation is almost this year, she says. On January the 1st. I'll be able to say it's this year. Aidan smiles sincerely at his daughter. Age 3, she taught him to appreciate everything. The specific blue of the sky in the springtime. The march of a line of ants down the pavement. Age 7, she taught him optimism. That Monday mornings were as exciting as Saturday nights. The weekdays as full of adventure as the weekend. And now, as a teenager, she is teaching him something else. The art of looking forward to a new year. Not bemoaning another year lost, zip by and double time. And then art school, he says. Art school, Poppy echoes, her smile so wide her eyes crinkle shut. And then I'll be front and centre of your fashion show. Sorry, front row is reserved for A-listers, she says, smiling at him as she sips her tea. The fro. It's the first time they've spoken like this for a while. In a normal way, a happy way. It's the first time since Lauren left. Or maybe since Zara saw the murder. Aidan is aware in a dim, hidden part of his mind that this is the right path to follow. Leaving his family in protection, ceasing meddling. Moving on. Anyway, she says, I can't talk about it. Honestly, I can't. It makes my stomach hurt with excitement. You'll never work a day in your life if you love your job, Aidan says. He misses his father, suddenly. He misses a man saying this stuff to him. I know, Poppy says, so secure in the notion of doing what you love that it isn't even a revelation to her. I honestly can't wait. What will Emily do? Poppy blinks, surprised. She wants to do HR, always has. Likes people, she'll be good at it. She gives me good advice. Poppy looks at him, her expression suddenly serious. Will you stay in touch? Of course we will, Poppy says as if it's that simple. And maybe it is. She plays with the string of the tea bag. Nicer than detox tea, Aidan says wryly. You look like you're on the detox, not me, Poppy says, appraising him levelly, finally saying what she'd noticed before. Don't you worry about me, Pops, Aidan says. You got new teeth. He says nothing. Their chicken arrives. Poppy ignores the waiter, looking at him earnestly. Everything is going to be fine, he says. Yeah? She says. No false hope. No false hope. But fuck it. Yeah, Aidan says sincerely to her. He brings his beer to meet her teacup. We're going to be fine, he says. Trust me. Poppy gives him a strange look, a look he can't read. A knowing look. But it can't be. Chapter 63. Zara, York, Yorkshire. 7 weeks gone. Zara doesn't know how she has managed to keep 6 calls with Harry a secret from her mother, but she has. On each one, she has described a different homeless person to Harry, and he has gone off to interview them. Sometimes they talk to him, and sometimes they don't. It has been Anna's turn this week. He is building a new case. This time, the defendants aren't Luke and Mal. It's all of Holloway FC. Did she speak to you? Zara says quietly, sitting on her bed. No, Afraid not. She was let down by the police before, Zara explains. She left an abusive relationship, and the CPS, they... Zara rolls her eyes at her overthinking. They let her down. I thought as much, Harry says. Still, we have your evidence about what she told you. It's hearsay, but it'll still work. Me, the known liar, Zara says. She says something like this during each phone call with him. Harry has spoken to 5 other homeless people about the hazing in their community by Holloway FC. But Zara is at the centre of it. She is the one who pulls all the strands together. And she's a discredited witness. Zara went to visit Jamie's friend Anna the weekend after the trial all those weeks ago. She went to apologise, to give her condolences, to talk about their mutual lost friend. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last, Anna had slurred. Zara had averted her eyes from the can of alcohol in her hand and concentrated on what she was saying. In a cold and dark underpass, Anna told her everything the homeless community knew. Her information was meandering and confusing. Government conspiracies about aliens wound up with the truth, but certain points came up again and again. The youth players from Holloway FC were in the habit of baiting homeless people as part of their initiations, and that sometimes it went wrong. Once Anna had told her everything, that it was common for footballers during initiations to pick on them, to taunt them, to piss on them. She went straight to the police before going home, even though she felt it was hopeless. She'd got the evidence of what she knew in her gut to be true, that Luke and Mal were monsters. 2 days too late. The police didn't believe her, so she called Harry, and they met up. She told him to look up the dates of a youth team footballers' birthdays and correlate them with crimes against homeless people. He said he would, but that he'd have to do it on the side, that it would take weeks. And then, the wheels turned too quickly, and she was grabbed in the street, and it was decided they would be taken into protection. She overheard her mother and Aidan talking about how their lives were ruined by Zara testifying. And so on the eve of leaving, she called Harry, told him to keep in touch, that she'd testify, but only if her mother wasn't told. He wasn't supposed to do that. Apparently he needed parental consent, but he broke the rules for her. And here she is, the star witness in yet another pending trial. A bigger one. A greater one. A conspiracy. A discredited witness, yes, but people believe her. Because there is evidence. They can't talk about the previous trial, Harry says to her patiently again. And even if they do, your lie makes sense now. You sensed contempt for Jamie, and you were right to, because of what Anna told you after the trial. Maybe, Zara says doubtfully. If she hadn't lied. Imagine. But then, would Anna have told her the real story? That none of the homeless people wanted the police to find out because they feared repercussions from the club? Maybe not. And then Harry would never have found all the evidence, the birthdays and the attacks. Anyway, I've got 3 more homeless people who reported abuse on footballers' birthdays, so that's 6. Good. Good, Zara says. I'm glad. Each week he uncovers more and more. Each time they speak on the burner phone he gave her that day. And then what? After it's done? Who knows? Who knows what the future holds for Zara, for Sienna, for Suzanne? Perhaps she could leave forever. She's seen enough homeless people to know she could get by. Chapter 64. Aidan. Croydon, Greater London. Tomorrow. Brian has called an emergency Fine Girl A meeting. Everything feels like it's falling apart. The entrapment meeting is tomorrow, the 21st. When Brian called the new meeting, Aidan panicked and tried to rally Lottie, but she insisted on keeping their entrapment plan in place. That is when she has the staff to arrest, she said. Only half the group could make today, and Aidan doesn't know whether they have their burner phones with them. It's better to wait. It's better to be fully prepared. Aidan left work in the middle of the afternoon to be here, in the warehouse in Croydon. Thanks for coming, those who could, Brian says. I'm afraid we need to up our game. What's happened? One of the players says. Somebody was contacting Mao on Facebook. They started to harass him about the initiation. There's a leak. Mao spoke to his uncle, who's a cop, who did some digging. For a fee, obviously. There's an undercover investigation going on into all the initiations around homeless people. Aidan's jaw slackens in shock. God, Luke says, almost to himself. And Zara is going to testify. A hot flash moves up and down Aidan's body, which he tries to conceal. She's testifying. His mouth is dry as he works it through. How could that be? Does Lauren know? Why is she doing it? And what then, afterwards? And finally, the last piece of the puzzle falls into place. This is why Zara is in witness protection. Because she is the most important witness in unmasking a cover-up. And she needs protecting. She is valuable. We need to find her, Brian says. And now there's too much at stake. Everyone will go down for it. She can't be silenced. We need to kill her. Chapter 65. Poppy. Battersea, London. Tomorrow. It is December the 20th. It is finally here. The day it all ends. The Find Girl A group is meeting this evening, according to her dad's texts, and so far, nothing has happened. Poppy feels that curdled combination of nervous and hopeful. Please, 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 just go well, she is thinking. Let the meet go ahead, let the arrests happen, and let her family come home to her. She squirms with the anticipation of it. Emily has gone to the cinema after school with a few of their friends, but Poppy can't bear to. She wants to be at home, near a phone, for when it happens. She wants to hear it ring and see that it's her dad and know that this will all be over. She brings up the Uber app on her phone as she waits outside the school gates. She's later than she wanted to be. She got carried away chatting. She felt so light and hopeful and free. The sky is still a pale blue-grey, but the sun has set and the school has emptied. She calls for an Uber and watches it crawl towards her on the silent street. She inches back inside the school gates as she waits. The breeze is so cold against her legs. By tomorrow, Zara will be here with her. They could camp out in the garden come summer. They could go shopping in Camden together. Cook a 3-course meal for their parents, bickering over who's making the most mess, Bill eating scraps of food off the floor. Your ride has had to cancel, Uber says. And Poppy dismisses the alert and searches for another. She looks around her. There are people dotted here and there. It's not yet completely dark. And it's 10 minutes, down a high street. Totally safe, really. And besides, Poppy wants to live her life. To walk down a street in Battersea, London, the capital of the UK and of the world, and feel the winter wind against her face, and see the Christmas lights of the shops spilling onto the pavements, and smell the roasted chestnuts, and arrive at home pink-cheeked and full of optimism. Poppy decides on the day that almost everything is going to be sorted to take the risk. She cancels her Uber request, closes the app, and begins to walk. Chapter 66. Zara, Yorkshire. 7 weeks gone. Zara has fallen in love. She used to idly wonder how you would know. She would Google what it would feel like, rationalizing that being in love was just thoughts and hormones. She'd asked her mother once, who had said, "Oh, believe me, you'll know." But Zara hadn't thought she would. But she does. And it isn't just thoughts or hormones or pure biology. She stands now waiting at the school gates and thinks about what love is rather than what it isn't. It is smiling so hard at a text message that even her ears hurt. It is replaying and replaying each moment spent together, each kiss, the pass of his hand over hers. It is time running heavy without him. It is two people who combine to form a reaction, something that simmers and bubbles beyond themselves. It is chemistry. Zara doesn't care about homework. She doesn't care about reading or making friends. Zara doesn't even care about witness protection. She is about to see him now, and time feels like lightning, so quick and hot and full of tension. He rounds the corner, and there he is. Hair that's longer on top, shorter on the sides. Dimples. Guitar case. She stares at her feet on the bleak December grass, beaded with dew that's already begun to freeze white. 2 weeks ago, she was afraid she would never go home again. And now, she is afraid that she will. But then what? After the trial? Zara doesn't know. She was prepared to go it alone. Let her mother go back to London. But now, Zara has somebody she must keep with her, no matter what. He raises his hand in a wave that looks so casual she wonders if he could really feel the same as she does. But she knows he does. He tells her so. "I'm so late. Got talking," he says. His expression is sunny and untroubled. "Don't worry," she says, smiling up at him. "Thought you might have gone," he says, kissing her. Cold skin, wood smoke, warm lips. She prolongs the kiss, another thing she once would have been afraid to do, scared to give too much of herself too quickly. But now the anxiety, the insecurity are small parts of her brain, and Zara, true Zara, is the rest. "I'd never go without you," she says back, intending it to sound light-hearted, but it comes out so seriously he stops and looks at her. And she can't possibly mean these words she has spoken to him. But she does. And that's another thing that love is. Love is lies, sometimes, but she means them. She wants to mean them. "Good," he says, one end of his mouth lifting, the other turning downwards. Inside, privately, Zara calls it his ironic smile. She has all sorts of words for the things that he does, because they elicit such strong feelings in her that she feels they ought to be named. "Good," he says again, softer this time. He goes to say something more, but he stops himself. And she's glad he does. She can't tell him. She will just be here instead, suspended in time with him, the rest of the world not really seeming to matter at all. He kisses her again, and she surrenders to it. "If I die tonight," Zara is thinking as their bodies press together, "I will die happy." Chapter 67. Poppy. Battersea, London. Tomorrow. Poppy's on her road when it happens. It's dark, windows are illuminating one by one as people get home. Street lamps are reflected in the bonnets of shiny cars. And then, his hot breath at her neck, the brush of wool, a balaclava, a word in her ear. Poppy. And then, the thing she knew would happen. The thing she's been waiting for all this time, convincing herself it wasn't going to happen. A cold knife at her throat. She can feel its sharpness, even though it hasn't yet sliced into her. The pressure of it makes her skin yield, the muscles and tendons parting, hiding behind each other like hostages. "Your daddy's a liar," the man says. Poppy can't turn around to look at him. She can't turn around. The knife feels like a great pressure on her throat, disproportionately heavy because of the damage it could do. He said he wasn't in touch, and you know what? He is. No, So you know what I think, Poppy? He knows where they are, and I think you do too. How can we trust a word he says if he sends us to Truro when they aren't there? But Poppy, we can trust you. You said they weren't at Truro. He wasn't lying. You liar! The balaclava man screams in Poppy's ear. Her whole body responds in shock, arms jerking out to the side like a starfish. The man's body is so tense against Poppy's back, and the knife digs further into her neck, and she closes her eyes and thinks, please, just kill me. Let it be over. I've been patient, but I'm going to ask you one time, Poppy. And you're going to tell me, and you know what's going to happen if you don't. No, Poppy whispers. Think. How can she get away? I'm going to slash this knife across your throat unless you tell me right now where they are. Poppy opens her eyes, looking at the rows of houses, wondering if she could scream, wondering what would happen. But this man with the balaclava over his face and his gloved hands would pull the knife tight across her throat, run away and let her bleed to death. She knows it. What time is it? Just after 5. The meeting will happen in just a couple of hours, and this guy will go to it with the information she gives him now. It will happen before they can get to Lauren and Zara. The group will be arrested before they even set out. Okay, he says. Poppy's entire body is trembling. It feels like there are 1,000 birds in her ribcage. Her arms and legs are swarms of moths. She is not a solid human being, but a shaking, frightened animal. If she doesn't say, he will slit her throat. She can tell because of all sorts of things she didn't even know she had radar for. The confident way he holds the knife, the force of his arm around her upper body, even his tone of voice. She could lie again. She blinks, looking up at the black sky. Her entire body chills as she thinks it through. He might already know where they are. He might know the general area, and so if she lies, he will kill her. He's a millimetre away from doing so. Okay, Poppy. Okay. She's going to have to tell him. She's worked it all through, the way her father would. The knife tightens against her throat. Poppy feels fear sweep across her. Her face is sweating. Her trousers are wet. She closes her eyes. Oh, God. She has wet herself. She has wet herself in terror. On 3. 1. Poppy thinks of all the things she loves about her stepsister. Her careful attention to detail. Her chronic shyness. 2. The way she handed these boys over to the police so ruthlessly, so correctly, it turns out. Because they are criminals. 3. The way when her dad and Lauren first got together, they sat up late at night playing Candy Crush on their phones and not speaking, not knowing what to say to these new family members. But they got to know each other, even through those silences. They merged like spices slowly cooking together. They adopted each other, skipped over deep talks, and straight into family life. Zara telling Poppy that flower crowns make her look mad, Poppy telling Zara that if she was going to pluck her eyebrows, she needed to do it more evenly. The middle was too thin. Okay, the man in the balaclava says. York, Poppy says. Sacrificing that beautiful stepsister of hers to save herself. Their address is 2 Sunshine Drive. York. Chapter 68. Aidan. Shepherd's Bush, London. Tomorrow. Zara is going to testify. Lottie doesn't know, does she? She can't. Why would she be helping him if there was an official investigation? So it must be covert, Aidan thinks. A secret even within the police, save for a small team, because the more people who know, the more chance it would be leaked to somebody before the evidence can be gathered. Aidan watched a show on it once. A Chinese wall was set up within the police, but even then, there was a leak, and a load of drug dealers got rid of every last shred of evidence, and no arrests were made. He sits and tries to think. His brain feels like sludge these days. He's not eating enough. If he tells her what he knows, she will call off the meeting. His only shot. She wouldn't jeopardize a covert op. Not even Lottie breaks that many rules. And then he would be left with what? Hiding from the group, if he left it, and waiting for the slow wheels of the justice system to turn. No. The Fine Girl A meeting must go ahead. He'll tell them he has more results from his scrapers, maybe even a lead, to make them come. And then he will tell Lottie afterwards. His entrapment evidence can be added into the covert op. Once he's made his mind up, he decides to try and eat. He cooks chips with nothing else and reads the Telegram app, standing by the light of the oven. Confirmed sighting in Edinburgh, a woman called Sasha wrote in there very late last night. And just now, Kevin said, firm lead on York. If the leads amounted to nothing, he said they would regroup at the meeting tomorrow and come up with a new plan. Aidan looks out of the window. Lauren and Zara are in the Lake District. Safe, undiscovered. Everything is coming together. Aidan sits on the sofa in his wife's old flat, puts his socked feet up on the table and considers what to do. He stares at the December sky. The people in the flat exactly opposite have already got their tree up. A family affair, no colour scheme, too much tinsel and chaos and ornaments made by children. He likes to look at it. He thinks about what his own tree will look like in Islington when everybody is back together. It'll be a top-of-the-range Douglas fir, lugged home by Lauren, smiling manically as she pulls it through the door after her. "I've travelled long and far with this," she will say, gesturing grandly to it. There is nothing more he can do, he decides. He is prepared enough. Instead, he does what he often does in these moments, these idle moments in the spaces between life. He calls his most favourite person in the world, his daughter, Poppy, to chat. She answers on the first ring, which makes him laugh. "How are you?" he says. But he is not prepared for the answer. Not at all. Chapter 69. Poppy, Battersea, London. Tomorrow. It has taken all of Poppy's strength not to call her father. She arrived home, limbs still shaking, and was sick in the downstairs toilet. She heard her mother shouting hello from upstairs, but she ignored her, wiping her mouth with toilet roll and looking at herself in the mirror that's always hung crooked above the sink. She reached out to straighten it. If she called him, he wouldn't attend the meeting, and then the group would go to York. So she has instead changed her jeans, washing them in the sink in the bathroom in secret, and then paced her bedroom, biting the skin around her fingernails, even though she swore she'd stop doing that. And now the call comes exactly when Poppy expects it, just after 7. Something pleasurable moves up her body. Heat, nerves, happiness, fear, all mixed together. She escapes outside into their tiny garden. Her mum is having another good day today. Poppy thought she wouldn't be when she called down from upstairs to her, but she is. She's cleaning, capitalizing on good health in the frantic way the chronically ill do. She is cleaning out their wardrobes, Bin bags line the hallway. It smells of polish and open windows up there. "How are you?" her dad says. He sounds relaxed. The air around him is completely silent. She expected him to be out, the city winds in the speaker of his phone. She expected him to be stressed, harassed, excited, nervous. "Okay, pretty quiet. What news have you?" she says. He laughs softly. "News? Well, has anything happened?" "No." Poppy's heart speeds up. She starts to pace around the paving slabs. I thought you were busy tonight." "Busy?" She stares at the wall of the house. She can still feel the knife against her skin, cold and sharp. "I thought you were meeting the fine Girl A group tonight," she says. There's a stunned pause that seems to throb down the line like a bass beat, a sound wave. "What?" he says eventually. "I saw on your phone." "My phone?" "Your second phone," she says softly. But there is no time for explanations. There is no time for self-preservation. Poppy looks up at her house, her lovely old Victorian home, and feels white-hot panic rush up through her again. What if she's condemned them to death? She should have lied, sacrificed herself. She's so selfish, so fucking selfish. "What? It's tomorrow," her dad says faintly, eventually. The edges of Poppy's vision go black, like a solar eclipse. Spidery tendrils seem to come off the blackness. She blinks, trying to make it go back to normal. Shock. It's just shock. How could she get the wrong day? They will be going to York. They will be heading to the exact address, and all because of Poppy. She stares up at the light of her mum's bedroom, watches her shadowy form moving to and fro, bending over, sorting out jeans and jumpers, and her eyes fill with tears. Her life, as she knows it, is ending. Here. Tonight. "You looked at my phone," he adds, but he says it mildly, gently. "Dad," she says. God, why won't her vision go back to normal? She sits on a garden chair that is freezing against the backs of her thighs, her eyes closed. "Something very bad has happened," she says. Saliva fills her mouth. She's going to be sick again. "What?" her dad says. She starts to whimper. A great Catherine wheel of fear has started up in her chest. She can't think straight. "Pops," he says. "They're going to die," she says. "What?" "I got threatened again. They said they knew you were in touch with Lauren." "When?" her dad says sharply. "Just now. The man in the balaclava again, but I thought you were going to get them arrested tonight." "What did you tell them?" her dad says. And he doesn't sound angry. His voice is so soft and still and quiet, like this conversation they are having is the most important of his life. "I saw you were arranging a meeting. I thought it was safe." The shock has worn off, and Poppy feels tears in her throat. "I'm so sorry." "Poppy." "They put a knife to my throat, Dad," she says. "They would have killed me. I told them they're in York 2 hours ago." "But they're not in York," he says, his voice a warm caramel gloop of relief. He laughs. "It's fine, Pops." Poppy's eyes flash open, and the blackness has gone, and she can see completely clearly now. "No?" "No," he says, his voice full of laughter and sunshine. "They've been in the Lake District all this time." "She sent you a selfie with her address on it," Poppy says, "in the taxi." "What?" Aidan shouts. She can hear him scrambling for his burner phone to check. "No," he says. "No, no, no." She sits up on the garden chair like a rabbit who's heard gunshots. She has sent people to murder her stepsister and stepmother. She has sentenced them to death. She is so angry at herself she could kick the wall. Stupid, selfish Poppy Madison. The reality is so awful that Poppy is not defensive. She doesn't explain herself. She doesn't say anything at all except, "They've gone there, after them. I gave them their street address." Now she has said it. It sounds mad. She wants to explain about the blade, about the feeling of it nudging her neck muscles out of the way, of the balaclava man's hot breath at her ear, of the survival instinct it is impossible to suppress, but she doesn't. There's no time anyway. And it's pointless. It's so pointless in the face of everything. She stares up at the house and, it feels like, into the past, before everything changed. "Okay," he says, sounding like a robot. "I have to get off the line now, Pops. And I need to call 999. You take care, and I'll be in touch soon, sweetheart, okay?" Chapter 70. Aidan. The M1, northbound. Tomorrow. Poppy. A rage bubbles up through him. He calls Lottie. She gasps. And that sound is the worst thing to him. Confirmation of her worry. She tells him she will personally ensure the police in York send a team to Lauren's address. 2 Sunshine Drive. It's right there in the background of the selfie, just like Poppy said it was. If only he had looked more closely, like he had when she sent him photos in the early weeks. If only Poppy had told him. If only, if only, if only. Next he calls 999. The operator seems perplexed by the backstory, the vast context, the cross wires, but says they will dispatch somebody. Then, and only then, he calls Lauren. Her burner phone rings out. He closes his eyes. She's doing exactly what she should, being good. Fuck's sake. His hands form fists by his side. He needs a private plane, a helicopter, to be able to teleport, to go back in time. Desperate, he calls the protection service. He has to Google their number, reaches a hotline. He presses 4 for other inquiries and waits. He tells the operator, Sophie, their backstory. 2 Sunshine Drive, she reads out. We'll be sure to get in touch should we have any news from there. Thank you, Aidan. Will you do it right away? He says. A frown communicates its way down the phone line in her tone of voice. I'm surprised you know so much about the group's intentions and your wife's location, she says. You need to be going now, dispatching someone. They've found them. Look, I need her number. She was called Lauren Starling. Please look her up on your systems and give me her number. God, how come he doesn't know her new name? There is no way I can reveal the telephone number or any contact details of somebody who is in protection, she says. But rest assured, we will look into this for you. Aidan feels his face fill with blood, hot red rage. Am I speaking to a human or a fucking automated machine? He shouts, louder than he's ever shouted before. And then he presses the big, angry red end call button, then throws his phone across the room. He might be too late. He might already be too late. Maybe Lauren isn't not answering because she's being good, but because he can't bear to think about it. She's hiding. She's bound and gagged. She's got a gun to her temple. She's dead. She's dead. She's dead. She's dead. He kicks the wall furiously, then throws the coffee machine onto the floor. Its fucking stupid plastic parts skid everywhere like kids' toys, and he kicks those too. It's all his fucking fault. In trying to protect his family, he has condemned them, sentenced them to death. If he had never been in touch with Lauren, Poppy would never have seen. He can't stand here and do nothing, waiting for the protection service to call Lauren's other phone that even fucking now, he's not allowed the number of. Waiting for the York police, waiting for Lottie, waiting for a train, buying a ticket. He can't wait any longer. He leaves his flat and gets in his car. He takes the roads too fast, his foot to the floor on the motorway. He will be too late. He knows, but he doesn't care, not anymore. He might be too late, but he will be there. With his wife, where he belongs, where he has always belonged. Chapter 71. Lauren, York, Yorkshire. Tomorrow. At first, Lauren thinks she awakes to cooking. Aidan? She is still in the before, where they live in Islington, where they have trained themselves to sleep through the sounds of London's sirens, where Aidan makes cooked breakfast. No. They're in the Lake District. No. They're in York. But they're okay. They're happier. It's taken a while, but they're happier. She thinks of something she could do today. The sort of things she hasn't done for a while. She could go out and buy chrysanthemums. Late autumn flowers. Put a couple of bunches around the house. It's a small thing, but it's a start. Buy a couple of Christmas presents for Zara. But who's cooking? She turns over, sniffs the air, then drifts back into her dream. She's hot. She dreams of ovens and sunshine and hot baths. Sweat vaporizes between her skin and the duvet. She's naked. She still sleeps naked, the way she always has since Aidan. She turns over a couple of times, then accepts that she's waking up. She opens her eyes, expecting a dim room, hazy in the early morning light. But it isn't gloomy or dark. It is orange. It's orange just at the edges, around the door frame, like the wood is shining. She tilts her head, studying it. Is the sun up already? But no, it's dark out of the window. The realization sweeps over her like she has walked into a cold fog. Her entire body freezes in terror. That's not the sun. Nobody's cooking. Their house is on fire. The bathroom is a bonfire at the end of the hallway. It is so enormous and hot that it has eaten the door. The walls are burning and embers are being spat out onto the stairs. The air itself seems to be on fire, hot little dust motes and pops and flashes. There's no way out. There's no way through. Lauren can easily see that it's already spread to Zara's room. Black smoke hangs over everything. Lauren's throat is hot and sore with it. Somewhere, though she is hardly aware of it, a smoke alarm sirens out. Their family's swan song. She runs, still naked, back into her room and grabs her phone. She dials 999. They tell her to plug the gaps in her doorframe with towels, with wet clothes, anything she can find. They will be there soon. They ask her who else is in the house, and she tells them Zara. She hasn't forgotten their new names. It isn't a slip of the tongue. She doesn't care anymore, because she knows this is them, that they have come for them, and she knows too that they will have thought this through. They have managed to find 2 people in witness protection. They will ensure they kill them. She's told to stay put by the 999 operator. She tells them she will. They ask if she wants to stay on the line, and she says that she doesn't. She wonders if the operator will think about her later tonight when he goes home and tells his partner that he couldn't help a woman who died in a fire with her daughter. She wonders about the stories the papers will run, about the Fine Girl A group, and how many different methods the Department for Person Protection tried, and how none of them worked. She wonders if they will recover the burner phones or trace her stupid letter to Hannah and conclude that her breaches led the group to them. She thinks of the text the other night, the selfie to Aidan, and thinks maybe they did. She thinks about Hannah as she pulls on a dressing gown. She thinks about the niece or nephew that she will never meet. First steps, first day of school, first Christmas play, bouncing a fat baby on her knees on its first birthday. She fumbles with the hot door handle to Zara's bedroom. Her grip slips on it, and it brands her hand, a large blister forming immediately. She thinks about how they never had a true, fair shot at this. Not from the moment Zara stood in that playing field over a year ago and saw the murder. Because it was a murder. Maybe not of Jamie, but of them, of Lauren and Zara. They are being murdered here, in York, by the people who say they are innocent. She takes one last look behind her at her room. She could ease open the window. She could fit right out in her dressing gown, save herself. But this isn't what parenthood means to Lauren. It never has been. She has put Zara before herself for Zara's entire life. Sleep sacrificed, no drinks out, lovely handbags replaced with changing bags, her breasts sucked and saggy, her stomach distended, her conversation poor, limited to whether Zara enjoyed bananas and the dry skin she used to get on her feet that they couldn't get to clear up. She's done school plays when she should have been working, carried her when her arms were aching with the effort, shared plates of food with her, shared beds, shared Aidan, shared a life up here in York, given up everything to keep her safe. She wrenches open the door. A wall of heat hits her. She feels her skin curling as she steps into it, but she can't give up. She must save Zara. She must find Girl A, her precious Girl A. She must find her and save her, though she knows she can't, though she knows she is dying here. She takes one step, two, into the flames. It doesn't hurt. Not immediately. She is existing in the moment between injury and pain. Just a few seconds. Just a few seconds more. Zara is sleeping on her back in that way she always did, one arm flung above her head. Lauren reaches for her. She shakes her shoulder, but she doesn't move. She's not sleeping, Lauren realizes. She's unconscious. Lauren's skin is burning and blistering now. She coughs into her hand and her palm comes away black. The doorframe behind her has been subsumed into flames. There's no way out. She puts a palm to the window, and the glass feels molten. She comes away scorched. The die was cast right from the beginning. They had no chance. Lauren is tired as she thinks of it. Her eyes are heavy, like she's been injected with a general anesthetic. She can't keep them open. Leaden limbs, black coughs, burnt hands. She kneels on the bed next to Zara, then lies down next to her. Her body curling protectively around Zara's like it has 1,000 times before. She closes her eyes, just for a second. She'll get her strength back. Her breathing is becoming laboured, burnt breaths coming in little gasps. She closes her eyes for a moment longer. She needs to get Zara out. She needs to keep her safe. Her body relaxes into unconsciousness. It's a tidal wave she can't fight. Her skin becomes even hotter as the flames burst into the room. For a second, she feels pain. And then she feels nothing except love. Motherly love. Chapter 72. Aidan. A lay-by, the A1 northbound. Today. Aidan's phone jolts him from his intense, angry thoughts. He's been driving too fast, zigzagging across the traffic, doing 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. It's late, there's not much traffic, just the blur of tail lights in the distance. It feels good to be doing something. He will just drive and, for sure, something will await him, but for now he doesn't know what. He is changing gear fluidly, spotting things up ahead in good time and dodging them. He is not human, not thinking, merely a predatory animal on the chase. But now his phone is ringing. He drives too quickly into a lay-by off an A road outside York, wanting to concentrate. His tyres kick up gravel as he tries to stop. He comes to a finish near to a shut-up lorry that apparently usually serves tea, coffee, hot chocolate, and kebabs. He takes his phone and answers. Aidan, it's John, from the Department for Protection here. Hello? Aidan says. I'm on my way up to York. I'm almost here. I thought so, John says. Aidan doesn't ask how he knows. I can explain what's going on. Are you there? Aidan says. In York? Come to the hospital. Okay, Aidan? York Hospital. I'll meet you there. A&E. Okay. Are they okay? Aidan says, wishing he was looking at John, now, that he could gather clues and pick over them. But he isn't. There is nothing. Just the black night all around him, cars whizzing by, a shut-up van in front of him. Come to the hospital. A&E. I'll see you there. The fluorescent strip lights are too bright for the small hours. They cast John's skin in a kind of yellow glow, sick-looking, jaundiced, eerie. Aidan is relieved when he is led into a side room, dimly lit, 2 pink sofas, not quite enough to seat 3 people, too large for 2. Old-fashioned lampshades, also pink. Pull cords that are segmented, string and white plastic beads. Aidan stares at them. Where are they? Aidan, sit down. Where are they? The Find Girl A group found out Lauren and Zara's newest address a few hours ago, John says, reaching out to press Aidan's shoulder so that he sits. There's a box of tissues on the brown table in front of them. John nudges it towards Aidan with his foot, unconsciously, Aidan thinks, as he crosses his legs. He's put on a suit with trainers, dressed in haste, illogically. Aidan hopes it means he cares. Yes, I know. Me and Lauren, Aidan says. John holds up a hand that seems to silence Aidan with no effort at all. The words simply stop like a tap turned off. A 999 call was made by Lauren at 10 o'clock tonight. John leans forwards, elbows on his thighs. Feet in those trainers turn slightly outwards. You also made one at almost exactly the same time. Aidan's mouth twists with the irony of it. Apart, but together. Separated and alone, but connected too. By telephones and shared goals. And by love. A fire engine, ambulance and police were dispatched as soon as possible. Aidan stares at the pull cords and wonders at all John's detail. He knows rationally that this conversation is groundwork. Procedures were followed. We did everything we could. Liability disclaiming. And yet, there is hope now, still. They attended on the scene and a fire had taken over the whole of the house. John rubs his hand across his chin. The beginnings of ginger stubble are poking through. Aidan braces himself as John reaches the point. He knows, but he is still staring at the speck of hope, as tiny as those segments on the pull cords. Maybe it won't be both of them. Maybe they are merely injured. Maybe. 2 bodies were recovered from the scene. We believe them to be Lauren and Zara. We are so very sorry, Aidan, that this has failed. That we have failed you. We will be undertaking a thorough investigation. John's sentence continues as Aidan's world ends. One world streaming out into the room in front of them like ribbons. One cut off, amputated, stopped. And it's all over. Aidan's hands are shaking as he brings them to his mouth. His face is wet with tears and drool and snot. He doesn't care. They are gone. his beautiful wife and stepchild. They are gone. He did everything he could to save them. He thinks about fire and flames and heat and his babies, his most precious people, the loves of his life, burning, incinerating, dying, ending, right there in the smoke, being cremated before he could say goodbye. Later. Chapter 73. Aidan, Islington, London, February the following year. After the funerals, and after the arrests, and after fucking Christmas, which cycled around even though it was inappropriate, wrong, it is February. And Aidan is standing with Bill Gates outside the Old Bailey. Zara's evidence will be read out posthumously at the trial of the players, coaches and members of Holloway FC for the murder and abuse of many homeless people. The double murder of Zara and Lauren was dropped by the Crown Prosecution Service 3 weeks ago. Aidan took the call, said he understood, then excused himself to go into the work toilets to be sick. The entrapment meeting never happened, of course. The fire, a homemade firebomb posted through Lauren's letterbox, was so successful, as the police put it, there wasn't enough evidence as to who started it. Each group member gave the other alibis, and in the aftermath of the fire, they ditched their burner phones. The forensics were poor because of the intensity of the flames, and on one bleak early January day, Aidan got the call to say there would be no prosecutions. The department said they would concentrate on the wider conspiracy, with Zara's evidence read out to the court. She had given many statements in writing over the course of her weeks in protection, by email, unknown to anybody. Zara's statements would be given more weight, not less, Aidan discovered. A small and poignant piece of law, that the dying have less reason to lie. And Zara knew she would be found, eventually, because of what she knew. She kept reams of notes about it, about what she feared was coming for her, and about what she knew. She is the only person in the world who could connect the murder of Jamie, where she heard the motto shouted, to the murder of Bertha, where Anna, who won't testify, heard it. She is the key that unlocks the dates of attacks on homeless people occurring on footballers' birthdays. Zara is at the centre of the cover-up. Her evidence will be read out in the Old Bailey, and hopefully Luke, Brian and the rest of the group will go down for the murder of Jamie and Bertha, and the abuse of many others, as they should have months ago. The police got Mal acquitted of his role in the club's murders in exchange for his knowledge. Precisely what Aidan thought he'd agreed with Mal himself when he met him. An especially dirty deal with the police, considering Mal double-crossed Aidan and tipped the group off. His loyalties seemed to lie nowhere. Aidan used to think grief would be like entering a fog, a temporary hole. But he is just as painfully conscious as he once was. Only in immense pain, too, and expected to work and commute and put away laundry, the same as everybody else. He is widowed. His remaining daughter has been diagnosed with PTSD, and it turns out a whole host of anger issues, which she is working through with a therapist named Betty. His mother never said "I told you so." Never once laid the blame in his lap that he had caused their deaths. She has been only nice. "It'll get easier," she said again to him last Thursday when he took Poppy to the shop. "I lived through it, and I know." She had held his hand in hers and brought it to her chest. Poppy had asked if Brenda stocked any shampoo other than this cheap apple-scented monstrosity, and that had made them laugh, just a little. And now here he is, standing alone in the winter sun, hoping for convictions. He's meeting Harry and his matcha green tongue soon. It's not an outcome that will do anything to undo what has happened. But it is an ending, nevertheless. Justice. A sad conclusion that will allow them all to move on. A conclusion Aidan has pushed for with all the determination of a man who has lost everything and has only the truth to uncover. Lottie left the police. They met in a drafty Starbucks in the city on a weekend when it's like a ghost town. Steamed up windows, cold air blowing in with the automatic doors, the comforting whir of the coffee machine. She told him she had quit after her second sip of a latte. I couldn't do it anymore, not after what happened to you, she said, eyes on him. You did everything right and you lost. That is not justice or law enforcement, Aidan. They kept a covert op from me and sent you off to the slaughterhouse. You left for me. She shrugged then, a small, sad shrug. I'm a rule breaker. I don't belong in an institution that adheres to the rules above everything else. What'll you do? Be a mum for now, she said. Parenting is all about doing the right thing, no matter what, isn't it? Yeah, he said. Because even though it's another loss, it's a gain too, for him. An ally, a friend. Finding meaning in meaningless tragedy. And then? I think I might work with gangs, she said thoughtfully. Not against them. Prevention is better than cure. He raised his coffee up to her at that. And so here he is, 2 failed court cases behind them. Luke's and the arsonists. And now here it is. Another attempt. The final one. Luke, Brian, and many members of the club are convicted of the double murder of Jamie and Bertha, and many counts of assault, at the end of a 5-week trial. It was Luke's idea to begin the initiations when he was only 12. He is sentenced to 22 years without parole. Brian is given 12 years. The sinewy man, 8. Lesser members of the group, 4. It's one of the biggest trials of the year, covered on all the national news channels. Aidan should feel relief. But he is numb. He doesn't feel anything anymore. Still, the day after the jury returns the verdict, he goes to see his mother, and they drink coffee together, and he manages a smile or two. He's got rid of his iPhone and his burner phone. They did so much damage. He wants to live without them. Epilogue. Aidan lets himself into the Islington house after his weekly visit to Brenda. The for sale sign is up. Poppy is coming over for a takeaway later and a drive. They're not taking pleasure in these things, but they are doing them. Poppy's therapist said she should try to go with the day and not with the mood, and that makes sense to Aidan. So he will keep making cups of tea, keep changing the sheets, loading the dishwasher, walking Bill Gates, going to work, until something shifts internally. Maybe it never will. A parcel is lying on his hallway floor, pushed in through the letterbox and dropped. It's a jiffy bag. No postmark. He stops dead in his hallway and stares at it. No. Please, no, not the group. Let the peace continue even amid the grief. He opens it. It's small but weighty. Inside is bubble wrap. He opens that, and there it is. A burner phone, wrapped in a note secured with elastic bands. His hands shake as he pulls the note out and flattens it on the kitchen counter. Before he reads it, he rushes to the front door and locks it. then closes the shutters. Then he returns to it, chest full of helium and hope. Keep in touch. L. Kiss, kiss. He stares and stares at the piece of paper, slightly tufty and ripped at its edges. Then he turns on the phone. One contact. In case of emergency. He texts ICE. Not knowing who he is texting, not knowing if it's a trap or a joke or a game. The phone rings immediately. It's me, she says. And, oh my God, it is her. It is her voice. It is her voice. It is her voice. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We had to wait until the group broke down and Luke got convicted and it was definitely safe. I'm so sorry. We're alive. We're alive. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I had to let you believe it too. It was the last resort, the only way to keep us safe. I've been so fucking lonely. I've been having 2 baths a day, eating so many cakes. I've got so fat. She prattles on, his ebullient wife, not allowing him time for it to sink in, not giving him space. She rumbles on like a freight train, like she always has. Months. She's been dead for months. What? He says, but he can't think. Can hardly speak. He sat in the hospital and was told she was dead. He attended her funeral. And yet, here is her voice, big and beautiful and true. The Person Protection Service faked our deaths. It was the only way to keep us safe. Apparently, it was always their plan if the group found us for a second time. Zara was going to testify at the new trial, but they thought if the case wasn't successful, she would be in even more danger. So they faked our deaths. We've been in Scotland since December. I can't. Aidan stands in the kitchen where 2 minutes ago he was a widower and stares at the wall. You're both fine. His mind skitters over the facts. No doctor ever told him they were dead. The Protection Service arranged the funeral. He never saw the bodies. They were too damaged, he was told. No wonder the court case fell apart against the arsonist. There were no bodies. There was no proof. He never saw a pathologist or a nurse or a funeral director. He saw a death certificate. But John gave it to him. Faked. All faked. Fuck. They're alive. They're alive. Could it be? It could. It is. He's on the phone to her. He tilts his head back. A slice of March sunlight from the edge of the shutters illuminates him. We're fine. We get asthma if we exercise, that's all. They got us out. Is this safe? Aidan says. Yes, the members of the group who aren't in jail have disbanded, properly disbanded. Tell me everything, she says. Poppy is looking forward to the Art Foundation, he says woodenly. Oh my God, she says. Zara has chosen all artsy A-levels. A-levels? Aidan shakes his head. His body still feels like they're dead. A heavy, sad weight in his stomach. How can this be? How can they be talking about fucking A-levels? Lauren is about to say something. Aidan can still tell, can still read her so easily. He waits for a beat. We can come back, she says, now that they're all inside. Aidan? Aidan turns to the window at this precise moment. The moment he is given everything he ever fucking wanted, and blinks. To London, he says. Yes. Well, maybe we could go nearer to Poppy. Wherever you are, she says. I can be. When? Aidan says. Now! Now, Zara will bring a boy. He'll probably have a heart attack. He thinks she's dead too. He's our next phone call. A boy? She met this boy called Dom. Family moves around a lot anyway. He might come with us. I think we should let him, once he recovers from the shock. Bill Gates pads into the living room and barks. Is that Bill? Lauren says, her voice deliciously warm in his ear. Yeah, Aidan says, dumbstruck, punch drunk. So fucking lucky he can't even see straight. You want me to put him on? If he can fit me in around his meetings, Lauren says, and she laughs so loudly Aidan has to move the phone away from his ear. She comes home a week later. We're free, she says as she gets into bed next to him for the first time in months. We're free. He slides his hand down her arm and reaches for her hand. Their fingers interlock under the duvet as they always did, as if no time has passed at all. We hope you've enjoyed this audio production of How to Disappear by Gillian McAllister. It was read by Nicola Walker and produced by Roy McMillan. The post-production was by Sophie Grounich, and the audio proofing was by Soundproof Audio. Copyright and recording, Penguin Audio 2020. Text copyright, Gillian McAllister 2020. The moral right of the author has been asserted. All rights reserved. For more Penguin audio productions, visit us at penguin.co.uk/audio. Thanks for listening.